Oh, they're really great. Oh, that. Oh.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Can I just remind you, we are actually live now. So could you keep your microphones muted, please?
Are we okay, Julia?
Yes, the waiting room's quiet at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome everyone. It's good to be with you again on this Monday morning, afternoon or evening, whatever the time is for you, where you are joining us from. As I mentioned last week, now sharing the role of welcomers to these sessions with members of the International Oblate Council, recently convened in the summer of this year. So this morning, I'm delighted to be able to hand over to Paul Taylor. Paul and Judy, our married couple on the Oblate Council, International Oblate Council, join us from Australia. And earlier on in these sessions, they were our speakers, so they did share with you something of their journey. So you already know Paul and Judy, albeit in a very small way, and over time we'll work on that so he becomes your best friend. So Paul, I'll hand over to you this morning, please, to take the session forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. It feels like a huge honour to be asked to do this, so thank you very much. And I've loved this year. Benedict's Well has made 2020 a really good year for me, because one of the things, two things I love about Benedict's Well. One of them is I've discovered that there are actually so many meditators around the world. Lawrence used to always tell us in Australia there were people who meditated other than in Australia, but we're always a little dubious. But now I've discovered he speaks the truth. And there are people in all exotic places like South America and Mexico and Europe. And it's just wonderful that we can come together. The other thing I love about it is that we all come from such different positions. Like for us, it's the end of the day that's just beginning for people in Europe. And for us, it's summer and your winter or coming into winter. It was 38 degrees here in Sydney today. So, and we've had a real hot one. But it seems that when we come to Benedict's Well, all those differences just disappear and we're all in the one time and place zone. We're present together. So I think that's wonderful. I'd like to also take this opportunity to introduce our prayer leaders for tonight, Linda Stark and Julie Drew from Singapore, and they'll lead us into prayer.
Linda's from Scotland.
Linda's from Scotland and Julie's from Singapore. Thank you.
O God, come to our assistance.
O Lord, make haste to help us.
Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen.
A reading from John Main, Moment of Christ. One thing we learn in meditation is the priority of being over action. Indeed, no action has any meaning, or at least any lasting meaning, unless it springs from being, from the depths of your own being.
Heavenly Father, open our hearts to the silent presence of the Spirit of your Son. Lead us into that mysterious silence where your love is revealed to all who call. Ma, Ra, Na, Tha. Come, Lord Jesus.
Thank you, Linda and Julie, and we'll be hearing from them again at the end of our prayer session. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Barry White, who I've heard much about over the years. I think because I was a dentist, Lawrence always thought I might be able to apply some of Barry's insights to my trade. But although I didn't directly ever manage to do that, that is, I never taught, I did feel that the practice of meditation made a radical difference to the quality of relationship with patients. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing Barry, who I've heard many times speak, from John Main seminars to retreats on Bear Island. And it's the two themes that over the years that I've listened to Barry is the effect of meditation on healing, and also the effect that meditation can have on those who deliver healthcare. And tonight our talk is entitled Healing Within. So I'm very much, as I'm sure everyone is, looking forward to hearing you, Barry. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm just going to share that screen here. So good morning, everybody. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to discuss the meaning of health and healing and its relationship to meditation. For those of you who, it might be good if you've heard me before, it might be bad. So apologies for those who are hearing some of the same things again. But Lawrence did ask me to just give a sort of a synopsis of what I had done in the John Main seminar in Bruges, as he thought that was probably the most relevant. So for those of you who've heard it all before, apologies, but maybe you'll enjoy it again. So I suppose the starting point for this is we often talk about health and healing, and very often what we think about is perhaps that which is reflected in this definition from the World Health Organization. So the starting question is, what is health? And what is healing? And the World Health Organization in 1948, and this definition still applies today, defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, the purpose of defining health in this way is very well intentioned. So what they're really trying to say is that it's a holistic view of health, for a start. And they're also saying that they're trying to allude to this idea of the difference between being thriving as opposed to just not having illness is important in our discussion or understanding of health. I think there's two problems with this, however. The first is that it's very hard for us to reach a state where we have complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Very often, even if there's no physical illness wrong with us, we're worried about something, such as the nature of life. Or we've got a problem with somebody in our family, or we're anxious about something. So it's difficult to us to attain this state. And secondly, it's diametrically opposed to our trajectory in life, which is, if we are lucky, to live longer, to accumulate illness and aging, and to ultimately die. So our trajectory in life is the very opposite of this. So we're every day moving away from this state of health. And if we were to abide by this definition of what health means. So there is another sort of dimension to this, which is this prevalent view of what health is, which is most important of all, which is that it perhaps distracts us from that which defines humanity, human existence. And that is our capacity to experience health and healing despite the presence of physical, mental, and social ill-being, for want of a better word, as opposed to well-being. And that if that is true, well, then that is fundamentally and far more meaningful definition of health, because it aligns with our physical experience of our lives in the world, which is that we are going to get older if we're lucky and accumulate illnesses, and we can still attain a pure form of health and healing at every stage. So in practicing medicine, I would have seen people who are healthy and are healed when they don't have a disease, when they have an illness and when that illness has been treated effectively, when they have an illness and the treatment is not very effective. And all of us in life will have seen people attain this state of health and healing, even at the point of death. So while it's not universally attained by everybody, it's universally accessible to everybody, this state of health and healing, even up until the point of our death. And that perhaps is the most important thing, or the most important definition of humanity, or the depth of humanity, is our capacity for that. So a number of years before he died, Seamus Heaney, who is an Irish poet and Nobel Prize winner for literature, was asked, did he have a message for doctors? He was in the College of Physicians getting an honorary fellowship. And he quoted from Cura Troy, which is a much quoted translation of a Greek piece of work that Seamus Heaney translated, having been inspired by Nelson Mandela and how he was the person that he was. And this is a much quoted poem by politicians, etc. But I just like to focus these are the only lines he used when he had his message for doctors. Believe in you need to believe more in miracles, cures, and healing wells. Call the miracle self-healing, the utter self-revealing double take of feeling. So what he's saying is you need to believe more in the miracles and cures and healing wells. Now, the miracle you need to believe more in is the capacity for self-healing. So what is self-healing? So it's the utter self-revealing double take of feeling. So he's a poet and he's going to play with words. The point he's trying to make here is utterly self-revealing. So this is coming from within us. This is not a prescription you get in the pharmacy. It's utterly self-revealing. So it's true and it's self-revealing. So it's a journey we go through ourselves and comes from within. Double take of feeling. So what does double take of feeling mean? Double take of feeling means seeing the same thing differently, experiencing and feeling the same thing differently. So what do I mean by that? It could be I am old and coming to the end of my life and I'm very despondent about it, or I see no meaning or purpose in it. Or it could mean I'm older and coming to the end of my life and I see fantastic meaning. And I'm experiencing a depth and a level of awareness and a sense of healing. So what he's saying is the miracle of life is our capacity to heal, to self-heal. And that is something that comes from within ourselves and allows us to see things differently, to see the nature of reality. And that is essentially a double take of feeling or a shift in our level of consciousness. a shift in our level of awareness. So what is that healing? Can we describe it? Can we put words on it? Well, and this is the reason why I'm quoting Seamus Heaney. This is sort of outside of the realm of doctors and clinicians. And perhaps we're talking about the absolute truths of life, which is where we get into the mystics and the poets and other people who seek the truth. And sometimes it is, you know, in quoting from some of the famous Hindu Upanishads, this definition is an insight is beyond words. It's beyond the eye. So we are merely just being given a flavor of it, or we're just merely touching it with words. But words that you might use to describe it would include peace, acceptance, a reduction in anxiety, a reduction, but not a removal of anxiety, a reduction in selfish desire, a sense of unity and community, and most fundamentally, a shift in our level of awareness. What is, if there is any journey that we can describe, what is a signpost to, or an aid, or an insight as to how we may experience this healing, this depth of health? So this is not my own insight, actually. It really comes from Lawrence, actually. As we were giving a course over a number of years when he was teaching doctors the meaning of health and healing. And I was listening. And I think it was a fairly profound insight from Lawrence, which is his understanding of the relationship between a number of these key points on this that I've put up on the slide here. So the path between the starting point is attention. And if we think about what the impact that attention has on us. So if somebody gives us pure attention versus somebody blanking us and not giving us any attention, whatever the environment, a child that's given pure attention versus a child that is given no attention. And attention has this capacity to enhance our awareness. And the purer the attention, the purer the shift in our level of awareness. And Simone Weil brilliantly describes this when she talks about attention shifting the level of awareness of both the object and the subject of attention. So when I give you attention, I'm increasing my level of awareness, but I'm also opening up the potential for you to increase your level of awareness, or your shift in our level of awareness occurs in both of us. Now, the purer the attention, what is pure attention? Pure attention is attention without attachment, meaning I'm not looking for anything in return. I'm giving you attention not because I want you to think I'm a good person, not because I want you to pay me money, not because I want you to promote me in any way, not even because I want you to love me back. Pure attention is just attention for the sake of attention. So think about a patient who's dying and there's nothing else that can be done for them, but the person who's caring for them, whether it's a nurse or a relative, is just giving them pure attention. Nothing else, just pure attention. And think of how that pure attention shifts the level of awareness in both the carer and the patient. And what that does is it shifts the meaningfulness of their relationship. So pure attention leads to awareness in both, leads to a shift in the level of the relationship so that it's more meaningful. And more meaningful relationships lead to healing. Now, the relationship doesn't just refer to our relationship between one person and another. It also refers to a shift in our level of our relationship with our true self, with our soul, with our spiritual center. It shifts our level of relationship with those who are close to us, but even those who aren't close to us. It shifts the level of our relationship with the world around us, nature, and it shifts our level of relationship with the creative energy behind the universe, God. So if we think of the purest attention or the practice of attention, meditation is a practice of pure attention. It should be something we are doing, looking for nothing in return. The purer our meditation is, there's the less we look for in return. Anybody who's meditated for years knows that. The more you seek, the less you receive in meditation. So the reality of our experience of life is that we are not always attentive. In fact, our default is to be distracted. And that in many ways is one of the great teachings of the myth of the Garden of Eden, which is that Adam and Eve eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That seems like not the worst thing to do. And the story is, as I would see it, is much more about what our pursuit of knowledge, in other words, our pursuit of doing, of thinking, wanting to improve ourselves, wanting to work, wanting to toil the land, create things, which are not bad things. Understand what it's all about. They're not bad things, but they bring us into a space which detaches us from true being and brings us into the realm of what we might say doing. So if we were to look at this another way, we could say being is pure awareness. And doing is all our actions. What I mean by that is our thoughts, our words, our deeds. Now, we clearly have to have doing in our lives. The important thing is, what is the relationship between being and doing? So for our actions, that is our thoughts and our words and our deeds to be justified, justified meaning made good. We need a correct harmony or balance between being and doing. And when doing dominates and becomes divorced from or only barely tethered to being, well, then we spin off into the world of the ego, of separateness, of selfish desire and fear. And seeking meaning in more and more doing is a futile exercise. It merely gets worse. We can keep jogging, running, working, even thinking and exhausting ourselves with all sorts of intellectual arguments, but it's not going to bring us meaning or healing. So where being is sovereign and being is primary and our doing is connected, is rested on our being. So the relationship is they're in harmony, but being is sovereign or primary. We are firmly in the realm of what the wisdom traditions call the true self. What Christianity, or what Christ would call the kingdom of God. So every day we drift. Every moment of every day, perhaps we drift. We drift into distraction. We drift to the right-hand side of this slide here, which is distraction, where our awareness is limited, where our relationships become more functional, and we're looking for things in return. And in that place, we will have lack of meaning, and we will have lack of healing and lack of health. We have another dimension, which is where being is dominant, being is primary, and our actions are rooted in that. That dimension is a place where our attention is pure, where we experience a heightened level of awareness, that double take of feeling that Seamus Heaney talks about, the self that leads to self-healing, where our relationships are meaningful and where we are not seeking things in return from those relationships, where we experience meaning and where ultimately we experience healing. And as all of you who will have practiced meditation over the years know, that just because you meditate one day doesn't mean that 2 weeks later that you're still going to get the benefit of it. You might actually, funnily enough. But the point is, we are continuously being distracted, so we continuously need a healing practice to bring us back. That is why, if you look through all the wisdom traditions, that healing practice is not even just once a day, it's twice a day, or maybe it's 3 times a day. So that is why we practice meditation twice a day, to try and lift us from the space where doing is dominant and getting out of hand, and reset us into that place where being is dominant. Of course, it's always sort of counterintuitive to some degree, because this whole space of being dominant is beyond words, and yet I'm using words to describe it. So perhaps really just a signposting to bring us to the start, or to the gateway to all knowledge. That is sort of the end of that phase of the talk. I was really just going to finish with some study that we did on doctors and nurses in the emergency department, where we taught them how to meditate. And I'm going to put a little health warning at the front of this, which is I'm going to show you some physiological data, some data which is very much in the doing side of things. Okay, this is not why we meditate. Well, I thought it was, the reason why I think it's interesting to show it is to think about meditation as something which integrates us. In other words, to bring all parts of us together. So that our eating, our sleeping, our physical health can be optimized. Now, of course, like I've said earlier on, we may have insomnia. I may have a terminal illness. I may have a condition that can't be treated. I may have a mental health disorder, which means I'm always going to be anxious, or I'm in and out of depression. That does not mean that healing or health is beyond me. In fact, potentially quite the opposite. But what I do want to show is that there is a relation, that meditation has this capacity to integrate us and bring all parts of us together. And it does have impacts on other aspects of our physical and mental health. So this was a study, a randomized controlled trial that we did in St. James's Hospital in Ireland, which is the largest hospital in Ireland, was within the emergency department. And there was a number of, it was done under the auspice of Trinity College Dublin and the Royal College of Physicians. And Fitbit, who are the technology providers, were also participants to the study. So to cut a very long story short, we had about 150 staff in the emergency department, 60 of them enrolled in the study. And the idea was that they were divided into two arms. They were randomized either to learn how to meditate, and they were given a Fitbit, and bloods were taken, etc. And then the other arm were not given access to meditation. And when the study was finished, they crossed over and they learned how to meditate. That was the essence of the study. But we had an app and we had a Fitbit on them to measure things like sleep and heart rate variability. And that's some of the data I'm going to show. We looked at their immune system at a genetic level. So our primary endpoint of the study, which is the main measure of the study, was the improvement in burnout. Burnout is a defined term which is very important in healthcare. It occurs in all professions, and it's associated with, I suppose, emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and lack of professional attainment. But emotional exhaustion is one of the most important things. We know that when clinical staff are burnt out, they are unhealthy and the quality of the care they give to patients deteriorates. Well, that should be self-evident, and in fact, it's borne out by clinical studies. So we were interested to know, and burnout is particularly a problem in emergency departments, and particularly a problem in overcrowded emergency departments. So we were interested to know whether teaching them the practice of meditation would have any impact on their burnout. So what we see here in grey is represent those staff who underwent the practice, who were taught how to meditate over 3 time points: time 0, 6 weeks, and 12 weeks after they started. And the blue is basically those people who weren't taught how to meditate. And what we see is the percentage of burnout rose in the control group, in other words, those who weren't taught how to meditate, from 24 to 36%. One of the problems we had when we were doing this study is they had a real crisis in the emergency department. In fact, the worst in the history of the hospital, bang in the middle of our study. And that is the reason why the burnout actually increased. But what was interesting, if you look at the grey, you see those who meditated, their levels of burnout amongst this staff significantly decreased, from 23% down to about 12%. So teaching meditation to the staff resulted in a statistically significant reduction in burnout amongst the staff. And that was the primary endpoint of the study, which was an interesting finding. And as I said, has implications both for the patients they care for and for the staff themselves. We also measured some other physiological measures, and I'm going to start at the very top. And I'm just going to call it out rather than going through the graphs, because I'm conscious of time. And also people's interest in this sort of level of detail may not be that high, but I'm sure you'll be interested in the key points of it. So meditation decreased anxiety amongst those staff members, and this was significant. It decreased emotional exhaustion. That's part of burnout. It led to a reduction in heart rate, because we were literally, because they're wearing the Fitbit watches, we were over the 12 weeks, every single heartbeat was recorded by the Fitbit device. The heart rate reduced during meditation, especially in the morning meditation. And on the top left here, we see it improved heart rate variability. So what is heart rate variability? Well, normally your heartbeat, in fact, is not fully regular. There's a degree of variation on a beat-to-beat basis. But when you're very stressed, your nervous system is pushing your heart a little bit. It's not that your heart rate's going at 120, but it's just that you lose that variation. So you lose heart rate variability. Okay. So as a result, decreased heart rate variability is a sign of stress on your cardiovascular system. And what we saw is in this group was we had two groups of meditators. Though everybody tried their best. Remember, these are people who are starting to learn how to meditate in a particularly chaotic time in their work life, because they went through this crisis within the emergency department where they were completely overwhelmed. Some people meditated more than others, and you won't be surprised to hear that. Those who are more compliant meditators in this situation had a significant difference in their heart rate variability. So in other words, it improved. There was less evidence of stress on their cardiovascular system. And the final thing is that when we never mention the word sleep in the whole discussion, but the people who meditated slept 30 minutes longer. Now, there's another day's discussion around sleep and the meaning of sleep, which has both spiritual and huge physical and psychological benefits. But these are interesting findings, because what they show is the people who meditated had changes in anxiety, which you might sort of guess. They also had significant changes in their cardiovascular system and in their sleep. Significant improvements. The final thing we looked at is we looked at their immune system. And TNF alpha is what's called a cytokine. It's a substance that circulates around your body and is part of your defense system. And what we showed in this study was people who meditated had, and by the way, when you're well, it's very hard to measure, unless you're ill, it's very hard to measure circulating levels of this. So what we measured it at what's called a messenger RNA level, which is at the genetic level. So as it's been turned on in the cells. And what we're able to show was that there was a very significant increase in TNF over the course of the 6 weeks in staff who meditated. So this is a very interesting finding, which does require further work on it. But it suggests that meditation enhances your immune system. And probably what's happening here is that they were stressed. They got a bit of immunosuppression from their stress. And when they practiced meditations, that was lifted. So their immune system came back to normal. It's not that they had a super normal immune system. It's more like that their stress was suppressing it and that it was returning to normal afterwards, after meditation. So again, meditation having an impact on your anxiety, which makes sense, on your burnout, on your cardiovascular system, on your sleep, and on your immune system. Now, what I would say is that there may be other things, other activities that activate what you might call the relaxation response. So it's probably not true. It's certainly not true to say that only meditation could do this. There might be other things that could do this. Okay, so it could be that exercise could potentially do it. Art and music could do it. There are other things, breathing exercises, meditation or mindfulness exercises without intention that you might have associated with meditation. However, that is fine, and you could certainly say that. But the point is that meditation had this impact on people in its own right. So to conclude, from John Main, one thing we learn in meditation is the priority of being over action. Indeed, no action has any meaning, or at least any lasting meaning, unless it springs from being, from the depths of your own being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. That's a wonderful talk, and the implications of that talk are vast. I know for myself, when I retired 2 years ago, the fact that I didn't do my work any longer, I decided I was going to do a lot of doing. So I used to write long lists of things to do. And after doing this for 6 months, I felt very strange. I felt like my ego had gained complete possession of me. And I think tonight you've given me a very clear understanding of that process. And that's, you know, for someone who has meditated, it was very easy to get sucked into doing rather than being. So that it's a profound talk, that, and I feel very blessed, and I'm sure everyone here feels very blessed to have received what you had to offer tonight. So thank you so very much. Now I'll return to our prayer leaders, or to Julia, sorry. To Linda and Julie.
May the divine assistance remain always with us.
And with our absent brothers and sisters. Amen.
Thank you very much, everyone, for that wonderful session this morning. Thank you very much to Linda and Julie for leading us so beautifully in prayer, and for Dr. Barry White for that incredible talk. I know I've got to go and think about that, but if I needed a reason to meditate, which I didn't, but if I did, you've just given us a very good one. So thank you very much indeed. And thank you to Paul for your introductions and leading us this morning. That was lovely too. So I just need to say thank you to everyone for coming this morning. I hope you have a good week, and I shall look forward, and we all look forward to seeing you again next week. So take care and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you. Bye.
God bless. Take care.
Bless.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Next week.
Best to all.
God bless. Bye.
Thank you.
You. Bye.
Thank you to all the organisers of this wonderful meeting. Thank you.